Hello fellow fraggers, my name is FragProShooter and today I'm gonna start a new mini-series on the channel which is going to be about reviewing every single event in Frag and giving some tips and tricks to be successful in those events. I'm going to regroup all of the events in many different videos, and for each event I'm going to rank them in a tier list based on how fun they are, in my opinion, how high of a reward they can give you, and how much work you need to put in those events to get those rewards. In this first video of the mini-series, I'm going to talk about the specific card challenges. These are the challenges that englobe all of the comeback/all-star events, the legendary card challenges, and the epic card challenges, where you can play to get a specific card in the game with tickets that you accumulate over time. You can accumulate those tickets in chests, and you get exactly 50 tickets every time you open a chest, and every chest in the comeback events take 6 hours to open, and it's 24 hours for the legendary card and the epic card challenges. Now once you accumulate those tickets, if you want to play a game in the challenge, you need to spend 10 tickets. Once that is done, you will start to play against someone else that is also playing the event with 2 random decks. This means that every single card in your deck is going to be random, except for the card of the event itself, that you will usually get about 50% of the time. Your opponent is also going to have his own deck with random cards, but the specific card challenges are not always the same for everyone. For example, for me right now it's Rolaf's Legend, but for you it could be someone else completely. It's really random, and they are not the same for everybody, except for the comeback and the all-star events. Those are the same for everyone. There is another difference between the comeback and legendary and epic card challenges, and this is that in the legendary and epic card challenges you will play normal mode as you would online. However, in the comeback and all-star events you will play in street frag. So if you win the game in the challenge, you will get stars. Depending on how successful you were in the game, you can get 1, 2 or 3 stars, which will stack up into your star slot at the bottom of the challenge. And if you get enough stars, you can unlock a characters among with other rewards like gold and chests. Now to be more specific in the rewards, it really depends on what challenge you are playing. For the legendary card challenges, you will now get 1 legendary card per 30 stars. So this is actually really good. It used to be 90 stars, so now it's 3 times easier to get a legendary card, which is why I think this new legendary card challenge is much better than it used to be, because you can get more rewards. So I think in that sense it's better than the epic card challenges, because in the epic card challenges you can get 12 epic cards for 20 wins. So obviously that's more cards, but the epic cards are much easier to get than the legendary cards. So this is why I think it's not as good, but it's still pretty good, especially since it used to be only 12 epic cards for 30 stars. Now it's 20, so you can see now it's much easier with those events. Now if we go into the comeback and all-star events, which are practically the same in terms of reward, actually they are the same. Well, comeback and all-star events are not really limited to rarity of the card. So this means that there can be a comeback event for a legendary card or a common card or a rare card or an epic card. It doesn't matter. So in terms of reward, legendary cards you have to get 66 stars to get 1. Now for epic cards, it's 61 stars for 12 epic cards. So it's still a good deal, but it's not as good, I think, as the legendary card. Now if we go to rare cards, it's 56 stars for 60 rare cards, and common cards is 51 stars for 300 common cards. So I think those two are not a very good deal, and I pretty much never play these events when it's common or rare cards. So you can see that it's much easier to get legendary cards from the legendary card events than from the comeback events, at least for the time being, since the changes for the new events have only happened like a few weeks ago. I don't think it's impossible that would change. So if it does change and you're watching this at least a few weeks after this video comes out, I would check out the comments just to see if anything changed. I will definitely put that information in the comments. But yeah, for the time being, the legendary card challenges and even epic card challenges are much better than getting epic cards and legendary cards from the comeback events. That being said, if the comeback events happen to be on the cards that you really like and you want more of them, I would still recommend you playing those events. Now to finish off the rewards for every challenge, I'm going to try to put the every single reward you can get from the leaderboard or the prize pool at the end of the challenge on your screen right now. For those of you who don't know, the prize pool is the reward you get from being in the top 5%, 1%, or maybe even top 10 players that got the most amount of stars in this challenge in particular. For example, if I was to play Rolaf's Legend right now and get into the top 100, let's say I get to top 78, random number, I would get one Rolaf card and 520 gems. So that is a very good reward. And if you are good enough at the game, good enough at those challenges, and know every single card well, you can get in this top 100 pretty consistently, I would say. It's 48 stars, which is actually not that much. If we go to epic card challenges, the rewards will be different, and the prize pool, the amount of gems you can get is not as high. So I think that is the downside for the epic card challenges. You don't get as many gems, but I don't think it matters that much because you get that many more epic cards. Now, how much work do you need to put into this challenge? I think that depends a lot on how high you want to get in the leaderboard. If you want to get even in the top 100, it is not that much work. So you can play maybe for an hour or two and get into the top 100 easily, I would say. But of course, if you want to get in the top 10, for example, which I've tried to do a few times, it takes a lot more work and you're gonna have to grind. But I don't think it's that big of a deal because it is pretty fun. But if you want to get a few examples of how much work you need to put into the game, here is a few examples from my gameplay that I've done live. So you guys can go look at my gameplay, by the way, if you want. For example, the Ollie challenge, which is a legendary card challenges. You can see how much time I've taken to complete it, how many games I've played, and how many stars I've had. And maybe you can base those results for yourself and see how much time it's going to take to get a certain amount of stars, or how many games you need to win, that sort of stuff. And you can also see that for my Sombrero event, which I've also done live. To add to that, for those of you who, like me, don't pay to play the FragProShooter, you're gonna have to watch some ads, and that's for sure. I mean, you have to watch ads a lot when you're playing Frag anyway. So maybe I would suggest you, while you're waiting these ads out, try to find something else you're doing, or you might waste a little bit of time. You know, if you want to watch YouTube videos or something while you play those challenges, I don't think it's that bad of an idea. And while you're waiting, might as well do something else, right? And yeah, for the fun part of it, of course, that's all going to be very subjective. I think these are very, very fun challenges, and I like playing the random draft decks. It forces you to play differently, many different cards, and not always play against the same broken cards, you know. Although that happens quite a bit, and sometimes it sucks because you get really screwed in the random draft challenges, and your opponent gets like really good cards and you don't. But you can also get really good cards and your opponent doesn't. So it's all about luck at the end of the day. I mean, part of it is luck for sure. Part of it is skill also, and if you're struggling in those events, it's normal and you can get a lot better, which is the thing I'm going to talk about next in the tips and tricks. So if you're wondering how to win more those events, if you're really good at the game and you don't really need my advice, because I'm not that advanced at the game, I'm kind of just, I've played a lot, but I'm kind of an average skill. I'll give you a few tricks, and you can do of that what you want. So my steps to win those games are a sort of a 4-step thing: analyze, strategy, play, and adapt. And I call it ASAP because you need to do it fast. So the first one is analyze. First of all, what you do is in the first 2 seconds of the game, you look at both decks that appear on the screen when you duel. You will not have time before the game to look at your deck and your opponent's deck. So you really have to focus in the first few seconds of the game to see what your opponent has, what you have, and what strategy you're gonna have to use. You can also, if you haven't had time to analyze the decks, you can go into the mini-map to really see what cards you have afterwards, see which cards you're gonna have to switch to, and such. So the thing that you can see when you analyze is which cards are your best mains, and this is the most important part. Which cards will you be more comfortable with playing? You should also try to look at what your good AIs are. If you have good attack AIs, good defensive AIs, that's gonna change whether you're gonna defend more or attack more. If you have good attack AIs or good defensive AIs, that's for sure gonna change how you play the game, how much trust you're gonna put into your AI when you're pushing, and how much trust you're gonna put into your attack AI when you're defending. That sort of stuff. Of course, that's hard to do in the beginning when you start to play the game. You might not know every single card, and you're gonna pick up on that. I can assure you when you play more, because yeah, you sort of get used to every single card when you play those, especially those random draft events. Step 2 is to strategize. So I've already touched on that a little bit. You need to, depending on which cards you have, you need to find a strategy that might be as simple as just trying to push with a card that you like, starting to do an attack command. That's usually what I do. I don't really go for very complicated stuff, but you can also decide, okay, I'm gonna do a defensive command and start this game defensive, as maybe my opponent has weaker offensive cards, or maybe I have a sombrero and I want to send bombs more into the other side of the field than just push. Or maybe I have a scrapper and I want to play this game more defensively altogether. That really depends, and there's really endless possibilities on the strategies that you can put into your game. So yeah, that is it. Then next step, the third part, is just to play the game. Play out your strategy, try to aim as best as you can, and get rid of your opponent as much as you can, and hopefully that works well for you. But sometimes it doesn't, which is where step 4 comes in: adapt. Depending on how good your opponent is, or what strategies they put in, maybe they had a better strategy and better cards, so you're really gonna have to adapt to what they are doing. If they are pushing, you need to go back and defend. Do not just go and push your opponent's base when they have like a super high DPS card like Tankbot or Katarina or Wave or cards like that. You really need to be careful about those very aggressive players, because they can just crush your base. Now, of course, if your strategy worked, you don't really have to adapt. You can just start pushing if you want, keep playing the way you're playing, and if it's working, just keep at it. And that's pretty much it. And the fifth and final part of this strategy, I know I've not put it in the ASAP because that would not have sounded very good, but it's the end game. How will you close the game into a win, hopefully? And how can you maximize the amount of stars that you can get at the end of the game? So here's a little bit of information. To get 3 stars, you need to have about 800 point lead over your opponent. So if you win and you have 700 points, even if you win before the timer, you will get 2 stars. Now, to get 2 stars, you need to have over 300 point lead over your opponent. So the same way, if you win and you have 200 stars, you will get only 1. And to have 1 star, well, you just have to win the game. That's pretty much it. If you win the game, you're at least gonna have 1 star. So based on that information, you can really adapt to how many points you have at the end of the game and how many points your opponent has. Let's say, for example, you have 1200 points and your opponent has 100. You might not have to go into your opponent's base and push. Just find a way to get 2 quick kills, or maybe 3, and you will win the game, probably with 3 stars. However, if you have, for example, 600 points and your opponent has like 800, you're gonna have to try to find another aggressive strategy. Don't go for kills, because your opponent is also probably gonna have his own kills, and that you will probably not win the game. So if you go aggressive, you have a chance to destroy your opponent's bunkers and do a comeback. So that's really what you're gonna have to do. Try to find a way to get as many stars at the end of the game as possible. Try to experiment with different strategies at the end of the game to get those good stars. And if you get more stars, that means you're not gonna have to spend as many tickets on the event, and you're gonna get your rewards quicker. So that's really, you really want those stars, I can assure you. 3 stars is really nice, and it's worth 3 wins of 1 star. So you know what I mean, like getting 1 star is sometimes not as good as getting 3 stars a third of the time. Anyway, so maybe you're wondering where the rankings are gonna be. So of course I said I was gonna do a tier list of every event. Let's get at it. So I think they're all very, very fun challenges. You can have good rewards from them, and you can really choose whether you want to play them or not. If it's not a good card on the challenge, you really don't have to bother. You can accumulate tickets and use your tickets in the next one. So I think they're really fun in that way too. You can really adapt to what challenge it is at a particular time. It's also, well, it's very fun. You get lots of reward and it's not that much work compared to some of the other challenges that I will talk more in this mini series. So that's why I think it's an A tier. It's really fun, and it's a good way to practice your many different cards in the game, which is something I appreciate. So with all that said, I hope you guys like this video. Hope you learned a few things, and maybe it will even help you to play better in those events. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about the 2v2 payload and street frag events. So subscribe and hit the notification bell for that. So yeah, I'll see you there.